Juggling resources is an everyday performance in hospitals. One of the most challenging tasks is securing a single bed room for a patient. This is a high wire balancing act. Single occupancy rooms are a must-have. Without them, infected patients are positioned next to non-infected patients. This is a risk of spreading pathogens, which are becoming stronger and stronger. The World Health Organization described this as the endemic burden. The number of infected patients rise, they occupy more beds and congest wards, and even cause the cancellation of elective surgeries. Revenues are lost and the costs are skyrocketing. How did it all start? We have been fighting illness for millennia. Ancient Romans were thinking about doctoring as a holy profession and dedicated temples to the god of healing, Asclepius. It was Harun al-Rashid, the caliph, who opened the first hospital. Located in Baghdad, patients received treatment in specialized wards. Enlightenment revolutionized medicine. Hospitals turned into centers of knowledge where scientists invented new methods and students can improve their skills. Private investors like Thomas Guy began to finance their own hospitals. Soon, escalating conflicts among major powers put pressure on medicine. British soldiers in the Crimean War needed better nursing and faster treatment when thousands of them were suffering from injuries and infections. Florence Nightingale introduced statistical methods and the efficient workflow of nurses and doctors in large multi-bed wards. But open wards soon turned into petri dishes for pathogens. To fight infections, we needed antibiotics. The breakthrough came with penicillin in 1928, when Alexander Fleming, a Scottish Nobel laureate, discovered that Penicillium rubens can have antibiotic properties. We've come a long way in providing medical staff with the ability to cure us from all manner of ills that would have left us for dead a century ago. Yet we still have the burden of hospital infection that seems beyond our efficient control. Why? What is the real issue?
And the issue revolves around the fact that we are using more and more antibiotics, and that because people are coming together in hospitals on these antibiotics, they are sharing the bugs that they have. They're sharing antibiotic resistance.
So one of the issues really is that antibiotics are too good and that they're very good at curing bacterial infection. And as a result, they're used very heavily and have been increasingly so over the last decades.
You're using a chemical to kill off the bacteria, but the bacteria obviously want to survive.
So the bugs are tried at every point by all the chemicals that we have at our disposal to try to attack them. So this is a place where they will be doing their press-ups.
So what are the most common and dangerous pathogens?
In terms of antibiotic-resistant organisms, our big problem remains MRSA.
We see flu quite commonly.
Things that we're particularly concerned about currently are things called gram-negative bacteria. The gram-negatives are much harder to treat because there are fewer antibiotics being developed.
For instance, there's a nasty Pseudomonas that affects all my patients with cystic fibrosis.
E. coli, which is the leading cause of bloodstream infections in the UK and probably worldwide, but there are also other ones such as Klebsiella.
It's a terrible organism, but it doesn't leave them. Once they've got it, they have it forever. They acquire that in hospital.
Infections deliver a complex matrix to healthcare's doorstep. Hospitals that were designed to treat patients in large wards are not equipped to cope and find it difficult to respond quickly.
What we can do is put together a group of infected patients in a 4-bedded unit,
where they can be managed together without going into single isolation rooms. So we might call that cohorting.
Cohorting patients in a 4-bedded bay means using exactly 4 beds for 4 patients with the same illness. Other patients with different illnesses cannot be accepted in the same unit, as it would raise the risk of cross-infection. Less than 4 patients means empty beds, or in other words, bed blocking.
One of the big drivers for outbreaks happening in the first place is failures in patient flow throughout the hospital. So you end up with, let's say, a patient who's colonised with MRSA in the same bay next door to a patient who's not colonised with MRSA.
Resistant infections tend to increase the patient's length of stay, which means it costs the hospital more to treat them, and also they're blocking a bed that could be taken up to treat another patient.
Adult patients who develop hospital-acquired infection, HAI, remain in hospital 2.5 times longer than uninfected patients. The UK's National Audit Office noted that hospital infections were costing the NHS £1 billion a year. Annual financial losses are estimated at €7 billion. The annual bill of direct medical costs stemming from HAI for the US hospitals has been calculated at $45 billion. We ride out the storm.
For instance, in paediatrics, I can tell you that we have to close units in various hospitals at various points in time because they have an outbreak of a very serious antibiotic-resistant bug.
The infection control team gets a call when the outbreak has happened, and they're like firefighters that have to come in to deal with it.
The clear solution is that hospitals and their managers must be flexible and respond swiftly to prevent infections if they want to see their balance sheets escape a mauling.
There's no doubt that any paediatrician would just lust after a cubicle every so often because we're often left short of beds and short of cubicles.
So this has been an issue, for example, with the Ebola outbreak, where we had to develop a system which would allow people to be assessed safely and rapidly. And that involved having a room that wouldn't normally be a single occupancy room set aside for rapid assessment.
In winter, for instance, all our cubicles will be filled with children suffering from respiratory viruses of one sort or another. And so when somebody comes in with salmonella, we don't have a cubicle left. Where do we put them?
So by finding a way to increase the proportion of single rooms, we can move from a situation of firefighting to one where you have an adequate insurance policy to prevent the outbreak from happening in the first place.
The problem is that the fabric of hospitals, the very bricks and mortar, restrict what can be done.
One of the solutions is for your estates team or whoever it is to come in and actually build another side room out of bricks and mortar. Now, obviously, the cost of this is incrementally huge in comparison to the pod.
The acute problem in outbreaks is a lack of single rooms, but that's a problem you have all the time. It's just that little bit more acute in an outbreak setting. So having more single rooms with the pod allows you to prevent transmission all the time, not just during outbreaks.
The biggest challenge in our critical care unit in patient flow was making sure that our patients were managed safely and effectively and not put at any risk from any infections.
Our intensive care unit is an old structure and has limited isolation facilities. So in an open area that may have 15 beds, then if you want to segregate out patients with infectious conditions or who are vulnerable to infection, then using the pods is a way of doing that within the existing build.
There are several really important features about the pod, one of which is the way the doors work and seal, and they're bifolding, so they open out to give us a normal open bed space, or can be closed because the patient does have infection.
Believe it or not, your chances of doing this and complying with hand hygiene protocols are significantly higher if you walk through a doorway compared with if you walk from bed space to bed space.
Intensive care units are large, open areas usually. They can be quite noisy.
The privacy and dignity of any patient is massively important. These pods are ideal because we have the opaque lower glass and then the clear upper glass, but they've got integral curtains as well.
The pods are designed to maximise the benefits of single rooms and open bays. They offer you the privacy and the containment of single rooms, but the visibility of open bays. So they have opaque lower panels to give you a sense of privacy and transparent upper panels to give you visibility.
Within the pods, the ventilation meant that until we got that right, that they could be quite warm to work in. So Bioquell, working with the trust engineers, came in and addressed the situation.
The airflow system is situated in the roof of the installation. You wouldn't even know it's there.
The pod has an air handling system that's designed to prevent the transmission of pathogens by air and runs at around 10 air changes per hour, which is actually higher than most single rooms.
With the pod, with our normal patients, if it's a non-infected patient, we just clean down with the normal detergents and wipes that we use. If we have had an infected patient, Bioquell actually come in and decontaminate it with, my colleague describes it as like a gas process.
Once a patient leaves a bed space, the area needs to be decontaminated. We can do this rapidly using the BQ50. It's small, fast and manoeuvrable, and we can get to that area and using one-touch operation with fully automated cycles, controlled wirelessly from outside the area, the pod can be cleaned within an hour.
Every bed space is a different size, every hospital has different nooks and crannies and corners.
The services in each bed space range from very, very simple to actually quite complicated. For example, in the ICU setting, you have pendants dangling down with medical equipment on. The pod is custom built to accommodate those services.
It was one phone call to Bioquell and their people came out and spoke to us, talked about our needs. So 2 workmen literally turned up with pallets of the structure and built it very quickly. Within 2 days, it was up and running.
Bringing security and customised solutions to wards, the pods have become popular worldwide. They have been installed in the Middle East, Singapore, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, Italy and Denmark, among many European locations, also in North America. These hospitals around the world were struggling with patient flow and are now looking for a long-term solution.
There's no doubt that providing single occupancy areas for patients is one of a lot of different things one needs that are crucial, that are important for dealing with hospital-acquired infection.
The ability to manage patients within a safe environment is paramount, and that's the strategic change that has made has taken a bit of the pressure off having to move patients out of critical care.
We have used it to protect a patient that we'd got neutropenic sepsis. We've also used it for just to offer a little bit more privacy and dignity.
Long term, the intention would be to identify additional facilities where we can look at single bed occupancy.
To some of our patients that have been here for quite a while and they're more longer stay and just they don't sleep terribly well, so this is a perfect environment to have it a little bit quieter for them.
But also our successes in reducing healthcare associated infection and therefore also reducing the risk to our patients has been significant, and we are seen as being a leading organisation in making those changes. So I'm very proud of what we've achieved.